Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope y'all have had a great Tuesday and I hope y'all are having a great work week so far. Hoping to come with this video with a little bit more energy than my last two videos. I tell you, one of my morning routines is getting up in the mornings and reading the Bible and working out and just waking up before everybody in my household. But the last two mornings, I have just slept completely in. And for me, when I do that, it's usually a tone setter for the rest of my morning as it takes me a while to get going. So I feel a little bit better today, hoping I can actually get up at a decent time tomorrow morning and really get my routine back in track with time change and coming off vacation and things. But there is some things to talk about in this video. It's going to kind of be repetitive information as far as what we've been breaking down the last two videos, but there's a little bit more to talk about. I'm going to take a peek in this video at the weather, potential weather. This is pretty far out, a couple weeks out for Thanksgiving week, as a lot of people will be traveling. I know for me, I'll be going to Brevard, North Carolina, so I'll be in the mountains for Thanksgiving, the entire duration of Thanksgiving time. So a lot of people will be traveling, so we're going to take a sneak peek at that week as far as the weather and really try to figure out what's going on. And we're also going to talk a little bit about what we already know, and that is that multiple cold fronts are on the way for the eastern U.S. And we're going to talk about how cold it's going to get and talk about the fact that some people can get a little bit snow from this areas, and nobody's going to get snow that normally doesn't get snow this time of year. This is lake effect snows. They're going to be happening in areas up in the northern part of the eastern U.S. So that's what we're going to break down. If you guys have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button for me. Guys, growth has been incredibly slow the last 5 or 6 weeks. I'm actually very antsy for things to pick back up. In fact, unless we get a couple big time early season winter events and winter storms or just active weather in general, I think it's a little bit almost I wouldn't say a long shot, but it might be a little bit of a long shot of getting to my goal of 10,000 before the end of the year. But at this time last year, I wasn't even at 1,000 subscribers, and I started in my head having doubts that I was going to hit it by the end of the year. Ended up happening as a big time nor'easter, ended up hitting about mid-December, and I had a lot of growth in that time period. So anything can happen, but thank you all for the amazing support. There's also an option to join my channel, which is right here. It's just a way to give a little bit each month, basically, and in return, I can offer exclusive forecasts for your specific area. And I'm hoping to get a little bit of a Discord going, which is basically, in a nutshell, just a way to instant message folks directly and talk about, for instance, if there's a big time winter storm happening and you're really wanting detailed information for your specific area, I can do stuff like that by you guys joining my channel. And I'm always going to be able to answer your questions and comments regardless if you've joined my channel. Now, joining my channel is different than subscribing to my channel, guys. Joining, when you technically hit this tab right here, that's actually basically there's a threshold. It's basically just a way to give to my channel financially each month, so I can continue to do the things that I do, which is storm chase, make my setups better and things like that, which 4 or 5 of you are joined. So I really appreciate everybody and the support. This is going for 3.5 minutes. Let's talk about the reason why you clicked on this video, which is the weather. So the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook here, guys. We're still in that 15th to the 19th range, which is pretty much the duration of the middle part of this month. Below normal temperatures still expected. Nothing's changed. So multiple cold fronts are on the way. I hope you guys have been enjoying the nice weather. It hit 80 degrees here in Columbia, South Carolina today, so very warm. I think we're Asheville, even in Asheville, North Carolina area is hitting near 80 degrees, so very warm all the way up into the mid-Atlantic and even all the way up into the Ohio Valley, very warm. So going forward here, we'll take a look at the latest GFS. Big time storm system comes. What this does is it brings rain for everybody. For the eastern U.S. I know from my area in central South Carolina, the last few systems have kind of robbed me specifically in central South Carolina. I hadn't got a lot of rain, but this is going to be a big time rainmaker as we're getting into our Thursday into our Friday from west to east. Friday's going to be very wet across a large section of the far eastern areas of the eastern U.S. And then behind it, cold air wraps in, and then any lingering moisture and energy will be in the form of snow. And as cold air gets over Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, the lake effect snow machine will turn on, and we'll have bands shooting off from the northwest to the southeast. And for those areas that are favored, that gets a lot of lake effect snow, and for you areas that live in that area, if you are You know, potentially maybe some accumulating snow can fall. So moving forward here, the lake effect snow bands will get going. Cold air will move in, but the real cold air really moves in behind the first cold front. And that moves in the latter part of the weekend. And this actually can bring in almost a clipper type system, which sometimes comes in with some stronger cold fronts this time of the year. Now this will move through, potentially spread some light snow from areas as far north as Minneapolis. I've had a lot of people correct me on how to say Minneapolis. I always want to say Minneapolis. So sorry for guys for if I do that. It's Minneapolis. So Minneapolis. So you folks can see a little bit of snow, especially we get into the latter part of the weekend. Guys, I'm a Southerner. I normally slur my speech. I've gotten a lot better with it. So I don't always talk clear. Trust me, I've gotten a lot better in the past year. If you folks have been, listening for a long time, but this piece of energy will move in. We'll move through the Ohio Valley and places like Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. It depends on, this has actually been trending a little bit less juicier, meaning a little bit less precipitation, but a little bit colder. So we have to watch to see if maybe some snow, and you see blue even as far south as Kentucky, and then it gets into West Virginia, the higher elevations, and then maybe some snow in the interior areas of the mid-Atlantic and the higher elevations in the Northeast. But this will really get the lake effect snow bands going because this will basically be a reinforcing air mass of cold air over the Great Lakes, which obviously aren't frozen this time of the year. You can get lake effect snow bands really all throughout the winter. The only time when they're normally going to shut off is if the lake freezes, and basically, the cold air that goes over the lake has no effect because it really isn't tapping into that warmer water over the lakes. So this moves through, and after that, it's a big question mark. You get into the middle part of next week, and I think it potentially could warm up the latter part of next week, which is getting really far out. But looking into next weekend, we're watching potentially maybe some kind of cross-polar flow setting up here where we have some real deep cold air from the, I wouldn't say Arctic, but much further north in North America that maybe tries to track down. We'll look at the European here and make this a little bit bigger. And it's the same kind of scenario. Brings the storm system here, brings snow a little bit further south and a little bit more potent as far as energy, and brings it all the way into Iowa, and comes in, delivers some snow as far south as the North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia mountains, and higher elevations. There's not a lot of cold air with this first system. And then the second system moves through and potentially brings that 32-degree line pretty far south, and maybe a little bit more significant snow for the mountains. Sorry guys, I had to briefly stop the video because my little girl could not reach the toilet paper, so sorry about that. So moving forward here, and this is the unknown. We're getting into the middle part of next week, around this time next week. That second cold front moves through, has some snow. There's a good bit of cold air up here in the northern areas in the Ohio Valley and the northeast, and then the origin of the cold air really begins to shift north. Well, I meant northeast, and you start to lose a lot of that cold air, and potentially maybe some ridging moves in, but not before very cold, very chilly mornings for even as far areas of the southeast sets in for the eastern U.S. and pretty for areas pretty far south. But after that, it's a big question mark. It might warm up, some ridging might take place. But what I'm watching here is a big time system. The potential for a big time cold sets up late next week, and this looks like a big dog cold front. I wouldn't call it a blue northern for you folks in the Midwest. You know what blue northerns are. It's usually them systems where it can be 80, 85, almost 90 degrees with severe storms one day, and the next day a powerful cold front moves through and it's a blizzard. That happens out in the Midwest. I try to tell my folks around here in the Southeast all the time who think the weather changes so much that it has nothing on the Midwest, places like Denver. But there's a little bit of a signal for a big time cold front showing up. And this isn't the two we're really talking about that we know is going to move through, but this is a different air mass. This is some cold air potential. As far as the temperatures, we'll look at the European. It has the potential to be quite warm for a lot of sections, all the way as far north as Cleveland, Detroit, up into the 60s this time of the year is pretty above average. Warm air really surging ahead of this first cold front. But as we're getting going here, a cold front moves through. Nice day Friday, probably a rainy day for a lot of the eastern U.S. And then you can tell, obviously, where this trough is digging. Saturday will be a tale of different areas. Saturday just depends on where you are. If the cold front's already moved through for areas like Alabama, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, even all the way to the Gulf Coast, it could be quite chilly Saturday. Another chilly Saturday. But for areas where the cold front has not moved through, like the eastern areas, the Carolinas, and this could move around a little bit. It'll warm up into the 60s and 70s, maybe a nicer day. But, as we get into Saturday into Sunday, the cold front moves and shifts east and brings a chilly Sunday potentially setting up. But as we're getting into Monday, it looks pretty darn chilly across the eastern U.S. in general, with a reinforcing cold front that really might bring the coldest morning of the year for the entire eastern U.S. A lot of areas all the way down to Atlanta, Birmingham, Columbia could see their first widespread freeze in these areas. But, very cold, chilly days. We'll see what happens here. And it's replaced by a quick warming. But look at this. This is a big-time wholesale cold front showing up here. So this is what we watch out for. You notice this is 222 hours out, pretty far out. But you notice Dallas, Texas warming into almost the upper 70s. And then a cold front moves through. And then, wake up into the morning and we obviously kind of lose. We don't get to see what the high temperature is that Friday. But looks like a cold front moves through and gets very, very chilly. So we'll have to watch out here. As far as anomalies, it does a good job of showing what's going on here. This first little cold front moves through, and it looks pretty intense on here, but there's no real Arctic origin from this. It's not a cutoff low. It's basically a weaker cold front. It moves through, and then it's reinforced, and here it comes the reinforcement that really can deliver the chilly air. And then you notice this blue showing up here, but you notice the blue showing up here also. So this is basically a cross-polar flow trying to set up here. And the first one doesn't really do it. It doesn't really dip far south, but then there's another one potentially. And this is getting into Thanksgiving week that really tries to dip down, and maybe a chilly pattern setting up. And this only goes out to 360 hours out, which, let me tell you, is not very reliable at all. But there's a signal as we're getting to the middle part of Thanksgiving week that this is a pretty stout signal for some chilly weather. I know you're not seeing blues in the southeast or mid-Atlantic, but basically what you're seeing is a wholesale trough with an origin of cold air from the Arctic, as opposed to just like a cutoff low or weaker cold front. And if you look at the temperature anomalies in response to that, you go out here, you're going out to next weekend, and then you go out to Thanksgiving week, and here it comes. Colder than average temperatures all the way from western Canada dipping all the way into the middle part of the country. You can eventually drift into the eastern U.S. in time. But that's all I got, guys. So it looks like we're probably going to be talking about a lot of the same thing in the next couple of days. But trying to figure out what's going to happen in the middle of the latter part of the month is a big question. I'm very intrigued to see what happens. A lot of people have been talking about it could get very cold, but there's still a lot to figure out. That's why, guys, I don't try to predict. I don't do winter weather forecasts. I don't do, I'm not going to do a winter 2021, 2022 forecast, because to me, I leave that up to the real big dog experts, and even them folks, it's kind of a guess. You're only going off climate and what we know, which if you think about it, doesn't go really, really far off. Basically, this is looking like a La Nina year. So we can only go off what winters have done in past La Nina years. But sometimes that's misleading because, you look at 2013, 2014, that was an above average winter for the Southeast, slightly above average temperature wise for the Southeast. But you remember that year in late February, you had the big time Arctic air mass in 2014 in early January. Then you had the big time winter storm in the Southeast in late January that year. And then you had the big time ice storm and winter storm, which was kind of known as winter storm packs if you're naming winter storms like the Weather Channel does. And that led to a gigantic, the last major winter storm for South Carolina, major widespread one from living here. But, it can happen in any year. So don't get so caught up on, You know, it's supposed to be above average temperatures with below average precipitation. Don't get too caught up in that, because all it takes is one event, depending on where you are, to make up the seasonal average and to go above it. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a great night, and I'll be back with y'all tomorrow.